So thank you so much both for joining us for the Chain Film Festival Q&A.
This was like a collaboration between me and Alina, and for this film, my primary role was director, cinematographer, editor, and sound.
My name is Alina Gerasimova, and I wrote the film. I was one of the main characters, and I was the producer.
Great.
Yeah.
So both wearing various hats.
Small production.
Yes, yes. No, I just love this film because it's so brief in many ways, but it's so rich in the way it's shot, the subject matter. Before we go into the production, Alina, talk to us about the writing process, because it feels like you've taken a very universal experience and given it a bit of a twist. So talk to us about the story and the writing process of coming to it.
So actually, initially it was a short story. When I was writing it, it wasn't necessarily meant to be specifically a film. I wrote it about 4 years ago, and it was just it had to do with me being in love with someone at that time, and it was just me writing a short story about that. And then when I wrote it, I thought that visually it could be a very interesting thing to make, and so I thought of possibly turning it into a film for a very long time, but there was never the right circumstance. I couldn't find the right people, and I feel like Steve and I were meant to meet for this project, because it came about very naturally.
No, that's it. It's so good when that happens. I feel like the best projects are when you have that great connection and you just know you're meant to make that piece with that person or whomever it may be. So, and Steve, because this short film has a very crazy moment when, the heart is put on the plate, which I'm assuming that was the heart, right? It was, okay. That's what I thought. I was like questioning my organs for a second. But Steve, talk to us about, directing that and how you planned that. And I'm actually curious to know what that was that you used, if it was real or not. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, we've got a good story about that actually. But I do want to mention, it really was a good match working with Alina. We actually met on the photo shoot. She was the model and I was the photographer. And so, we chatted. I was like, what else do you do? And she's like, oh, I write. I'm also an actor. And I was like, hey, I love turning, short pieces into short films. And so that's kind of how it all happened. Yeah, so about the heart, yeah. So when she came to me, with this idea, I was like, okay, I'd love to do this, because it kind of pushes the boundaries of what people are comfortable with. I've always enjoyed, kind of pushing people a little bit. So I think this film, even though it's short, it does a little bit of that because it's quite unexpected. The heart, Alina actually got the heart. I'm very proud of her. Because frankly, I should have been the one to get it. But yeah, Alina, why don't you tell a story? I love that story.
So I did not know where to go and like how to find a heart, like a full heart that would look, the way we wanted it to look. And I went to Chinatown.
Okay.
And I was just checking and trying to find different butcheries in Chinatown. And I was trying, like in one of the shops, I was trying to explain what I needed, and I remember the gentleman that was working there, I was having a hard time understanding what is it that why I needed it. So he was like, well, we have the chopped, and like different food wise, what you can. And like, no, I actually really need the whole heart, just so it looks whole. It's very important. And he found it somewhere, and it was under $1. It was like 90 something cents that I bought it for.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Because not to get too much onto the heart, but it looked like so clean. I don't know.
It's a pig's part.
It's for human consumption, so yeah.
Yeah.
But that also brings us to the next point, which is something that I'm very proud of. Because she said that the heart was less than $1, right? And I'm very proud of the fact that we got this film shot in next to no budget.
Yes, which was going to be...
it's a bit disputed, right? Because I always thought that, it was about $5 that we spent. Alina says it's about $10, but, that's okay.
Wait, on the whole film or on the heart?
On the whole film.
What?
Yeah, it was definitely a low budget production.
Well, so because it has like a very European art house vibe to it going on. And so in terms of the location and the actors, was it all to do with community, people How did you work all that out?
Yeah, definitely people we know. I at the time worked at this great restaurant in Greenwich Village. That was one of my favorite jobs. I was a bartender there, and the space that we shot in is actually a little speakeasy cocktail bar upstairs that we had. And it's just, the space is so I know, special and so beautiful. And the fact that I asked my general manager if it was okay, and he was like, yeah, go right ahead, it's fine. And Joey Virgo, the co-star, the guy who eats the heart, he worked there also. He's also an actor and a comedian, and my friend. So it was very much like people close in the community.
Yeah, no, it's just a testament to what you can achieve, because it is obviously a very short for sure, but it just, it had such high quality value. Acting was wonderful. Direction was extremely beautiful to watch. Such a unique story. And I hope you guys will be collaborating on things in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for expanding this story, or?
This story, I don't know. I mean,
the sequel.
Yeah, the sequel.
I would watch it. I really would. I honestly would look forward to that.
Bigger and better hearts.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yes, it's been a pleasure to meet you both.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really, really nice talking to you.
Same. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us and selecting our film.
Thank you so much for doing this Q&A.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, and congrats on having such a beautiful film screen during a pandemic. This is...
Who knew?
Just so we know a little bit about your background, what is your experience in film so far?
I have been a writer, actor, producer for about 30 years now. And I've worked really across all genres. I've done sitcoms, I've done drama, I've written feature scripts. I spent a lot of time in reality TV, writing reality TV, and, producing that stuff. And most recently, I have been writing podcasts, and I came back to acting a few years ago after like a 20+ year hiatus, and that's what ended up with me making this short film.
Well, wow. If you haven't acted in 20 years and that was your performance, I am blown away, literally.
Thank you.
So when I was watching, what I found really cool about the film was it was such a clean, simple concept.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about where this idea for the concept came from?
It actually started as a monologue. The Writers Guild LGBTQ committee has a thing they do every year called the gay scene. And it's usually, a scene from a screenplay or a pilot. And I couldn't really find anything in what I'd written. So I thought, I'm just going to make something up. And I performed it, and people said, you should shoot this. And it took me like a year to get around to finally doing it, but I did. So it started, it's just a very simple little monologue. And now it's going to be a series. I'm actually working on additional episodes. It's going to be on Outfest now.
Oh, wonderful. That's really cool. And okay, and so in terms of making the film, it seemed like obviously nothing about filmmaking is simple, even if it appears to be simple, but you had a one room, maybe a camera and a phone. Talk to us about like the process of setting that up.
Yeah, well, Zenon Samuel's my director. I had worked with him when he was a film student doing on some of his films. So I just asked him, would you shoot this? And so it's exactly like you said, we shot it simultaneously on a phone and on his camera, and we just did it, shot it in a day, shot a bunch of takes, and then he edited it.
Great, great. And because you have this experience, is there some advice you would give to emerging filmmakers in terms of keeping budgets small, keeping ideas interesting but compact?
Yeah, I think just do it, and do it as simply as you can. Sometimes constraints are actually a good thing because they make you think more creatively and figure out solutions that you wouldn't have. And like the series that I'm shooting now, I'm doing everything because of the pandemic. So I'm really like shooting against a green screen and editing, and the hardest thing is getting focus on the camera, because I'm like, when I sit and my eyes aren't very good, so I'll look at that, I think it looks good, and then I do a take and it's bad. So but yeah, I think people sometimes get too ambitious, and you just want to have a good story with a good hook and good performance, and then everything else is kind of forgiven, I think.
Yes, because it's interesting. You just said it sounded like this is a fictional script that you wrote, obviously, but even though it was fictional, though, it felt very authentic in the way that it was done.
Yeah, I mean, I really did march with Harvey Milk, and I was an activist, back in the 70s and all that. So the history of it is true. Thankfully, the premise is not true. I haven't humiliated myself online yet, but it did kind of come from a true place. Yeah.
Okay, well, incredible, beautiful work. And for anyone watching, can you let us know where we can see more of your work, or listen to your podcasts?
Yeah, my podcasts I did through Wondery, and they are a show called American Scandal, American Scandal Balco, which is about the steroid scandal in sports, and American Scandal, the Hare Krishna murders, which is the insane true story of the Hare Krishnas who were involved in prostitution and money laundering and trademark infringement and murder. It's a crazy story. And then the date of the series, as I said, will be on Outfest now.
Okay, wonderful.
Great.
Thank you so, so much, and good luck with the rest of your festival run.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Great. So first of all, congrats on your film.
Thank you.
So you are obviously in it and produced it, correct?
Yes. And I also wrote it.
Yes, which is amazing. So can you tell, for everyone watching, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in film?
Well, I'm originally from Greece. I got my MFA in acting in Greece, and I've been acting primarily since I was 18. Writing and filmmaking came into my life about, I don't know, a little over 2 years ago. I discovered that I really love writing, and I moved to New York in 2014, so that was about 6 years ago, and it was definitely, a big transition. I took a lot of acting classes and participated in a lot of indie projects. And in that process, I realized how much I love writing, and I started taking writing classes as well. And so about a year and a half ago, I got this idea about couples therapy, which is loosely based on my own life. And I was fortunate enough to be able to assemble a team of amazing people and make it happen somehow.
Yes, no, it's so great. And what I, there's so many different types of short films, but I have to say your short film has an extremely high quality to it. Like, it
Thank you.
appears, maybe you did have an extremely large budget, I don't know, but it just has such a high quality to it. I mean, you've got drone shots of New York City, you've got
Oh,
all these incredible things going on. So for emerging filmmakers, can you tell us a little bit about the process of how you achieved such a high budget looking film?
well, it's definitely not high budget. I used my life savings on that, and there were not that many to begin with. We definitely worked on a really, really tight budget. An easy way to make it seem, like you said, the drone shots, we didn't really have those shots. They are stock footage. So that's definitely something that I recommend to a lot of filmmakers. And looking back at it now, I would have even plan those ahead and maybe do a little research about them and have figured out what I'm going to use before when we actually decided on that post production. So that's one thing that I learned as a new filmmaker. Um, and I was lucky enough to have friends that have connections and that know great people that could lower their prices just a little bit for us. And we had an amazing crew. The cast volunteered their time. I paid for their transport, but we had a lot of actors that had like one or two lines, as you may see, so it would be really hard to pay 11 actors. So I was lucky on that front that I managed to get so much talent to work in this project for free. So I mean, there's this saying, as emerging filmmakers are saying, that favors, just
Yes.
reach out, and usually you'll find out that people want to help. You'll get a lot of no's, but usually people want to help and want to be useful and want to help you make your dream come true.
Yes, 100%. I love that advice. And in terms of, you obviously do a great performance in this short film. And, I think we know as indie filmmakers, it's wearing many hats, right? We all have to wear many, many hats. Doesn't mean you need to actually act in it if you don't want to. But in terms of being a performer, whilst also trying to juggle the producing side of it, can you talk a little bit about how you navigated that, focusing on this character and getting the film made?
It was definitely a challenge, and I've worked on this character harder than I ever have on any role before, because I wanted to make sure that my performance would be on spot, that I wouldn't have any issues with my performance, and that it would not get jeopardized because of all the things that I had going around me. So I had prepared more than I have ever prepared for any role. Also, the fact that I wrote it helped a lot, because I'm definitely very different than Natalia, but it was loosely based on my own experiences. So there were a lot of elements that were inspired by me, that were part of me. And At the same time, I had the fact that I wrote it, I had, the liberty to change a line if I felt that something wasn't working, which you most often don't. So that helped a lot. And I knew where
to stop when it comes to hat wearing. This was my first project. I had never done anything like that before, so I knew that I would not have been able to direct it and have a great performance, because it like directing is a whole lot different. Just this like a huge thing to deal with, especially for a first time filmmaker. So and I really needed that third eye. I needed someone to comment on my performance, and if I had been coming back and forth, like I needed someone to guide me through certain things that I would not have picked up on. And our director, Randy Ramos Jr., he was amazing, and we saw eye to eye on a lot of things, and he added a lot of great details on my performance that I saw later, and I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. I love that he thought of that.
No, that's great. Yes, yes. So impressive to do all those things. Okay, and my last question is, I do not know much about, being a therapist or psychology, but as much as I do know, you had quite a bold ending to this film. Some might go as far as to say slightly controversial, even.
It's very controversial,
so,
for sure.
Yes, so I'm interested from a creative perspective, like as a writer, like what led you to this ending? And maybe you don't know the answer, but I'm just interested to hear creatively about that.
Well, I feel like my writing is more controversial and boundary pushing, and I'm not, I can be a stickler for rules sometimes, but not when it comes to human nature and to circumstances. And in that particular case, I mean, I don't mind spoiling it. Is it okay if I spoil the?
Yes, I think most people that watch this will have watched the film.
Will have watched it, and also you can pretty much tell just from our trailer. So yes, the therapist sleeps with one of her patients at the end.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that for many reasons, but the main reason was because I wanted to show how she, like, everything that's happening in her life has made her go down this self-destructive path, and that you can be the most educated and put together person, and your job might be helping other people and knowing better than others, but when it comes to matters of the heart, all that goes out the window. And like, therapists are allowed to make mistakes as well. And I actually talked to a lot of therapists about it, and I would say most of them, not all, almost all of them said, oh yeah, that's a big no-no, yes.
Right.
But my personal therapist actually was more understanding, and she's like, well, yes, you're not supposed to, but it happens. So that's kind of my philosophy about the subject, that yes, that you're not supposed to do that, but it can happen, and that stuff happens, and that you don't
human nature.
Yes, exactly. Like I'm all about being understanding and compassionate about human nature.
Yes,
and that even the best of us can slip and make
mistakes. No, I also loved that the film didn't tie us up into a nice neat bow. I think that's a really beautiful ending to a film, and it's just life. It's life.
And it's actually a proof of concept / pilot. It also works as a short film, but it was like, the concept of it is a pilot. So I wanted that hook in the end, so that people are like, oh, I want to watch the next episode.
Yes, definitely. Oh, well, they would after this, for sure. But Michaela, thank you so much. We are at our time, but it's great to meet you, and good luck taking this on and making it into a TV show or more episodes, whatever you may do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And is there somewhere where watchers can see more of your work, or?
Yes. Well, my name, Michaela Zanu, it's spelled with a CH and 2 N's, the Zanu. It's my website, michaelazanu.com, and Michaela Zanu on all socials. And you can also check for updates on couples therapy. We have our own website, Couples Therapy TV, and our handle on social is @Couples Therapy TV.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and being part of the Q&A. Very quickly before we chat about your project, could you just tell for the watchers, could you tell us about what's your role in the piece, a little bit about your background in filmmaking?
My name's Tom Chacho. I'm the writer, creator, and executive producer of Lo, The New Adventures of Ultimate Man's Ex-Girlfriend. I've worked in film and television for quite a few years, mostly in a lot of unscripted roles. Our project was largely put together by a lot of nonfiction producers, writers, and directors who all sort of teamed up to take a big scripted swing with this project. And before I talk too much, thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be a part of the chain.
No, we are excited. We're the most excited. So yeah, you'd call this a web series, right? It feels like the 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's a digital series. Yeah,
a digital series. Yes, and obviously it's got like some special effects and it's got some superhero stuff going on in here. Can you talk about that particularly? Because I was watching for these moments, like the moment when he flies past the window, which I myself am a filmmaker, but I was like, wow, that's incredible to achieve that on potentially not so big of a budget. Can you speak to that side of the process?
Well, I think first and foremost, I wanted to make a show about this woman's relationships and this woman's work life. But, in setting it in this superhero world, we wanted you to believe that superheroes were real. So we were always sort of asking ourselves, what are the effects we could create, at the end of a shot, out of the corner of your eye. So sort of the idea that this bigger superhero universe was happening like just to the side of the camera always. So what we were always sort of thinking about is like, what could we do technically with this limited budget to create a freeze ray, to make it look like a guy is flying in the background of our shots, to make it look like to make it look like Ultimate Man is practically flying into a room. And a lot of that is, trial and error. We were very lucky in terms of the effects people that we had access to through our professional networks who really helped us out with this. But, sometimes like just making it look like a superhero is flying into your space is just, using an Apple box and a bunch of leaf blowers. And then sound design sort of does the rest.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so take away from that, it is possible on a small budget or a limited budget to create effects in various ways. Yes. Okay. And I love the character of Lo. She's such a great character. I honestly, by the end of it, was feeling like I just wanted to watch 5 more digital episodes, to be honest. Can you talk about maybe something, because you do have a lot of special effects and stuff that you guys did in the scenes. Can you talk about maybe a few unexpected things that happened during the filmmaking process?
I'm trying to think about like what was really unexpected. I mean, we were a lot of obviously like a lot of planning goes into making these things happen. Yes. What I would say is that like the warehouse shoot, which is sort of which takes you through like the last 2 episodes, that we'd sort of been planning to shoot that in the fall, and then it slowly pushed until we were like in that warehouse in February, which is like a very different kind of shooting experience. So finding a way to keep everybody warm and comfortable and able to do their jobs, and also like able to do sort of a love scene, and to make sure that there also was fight choreography. It just made everything a lot harder to pull off, I would say. Although we did pull it off, but that was probably the hardest day of the shoot.
Yes, I can imagine the cold. Oh, filmmaking in the cold. And in terms of the process, when you were making this, did you film one of the episodes as one whole shoot and then the next? Or did you write all 3 episodes and then create a schedule to film the whole thing at one go?
Well, I, you know, as a non-fiction producer, I'm very much used to how many days do we have to tell our story? You know, like, because even you know, like right now I'm producing Real Housewives, and a lot of that is like, how do we tell a story in this many days? And what are the pieces and locations we need to tell this story and to like reveal this experience? So I always knew that we could pull this off in 4 days. And it was a matter of figuring out like, what are the 4 major locations that we could tell this story in? How many episodes do we need to tell the story? And there was a version of this that was 6 shorter episodes that had a couple more locations. And then, you know, we had to pare it down just due to what we could fit into the days that we had. So certain scenes and beats got combined. You know, that exterior street shot was part of a much longer prologue that we wound up not shooting. And then we went in to shoot 4 episodes. And then once we were cutting together the 4 episodes, sorry, we shot it as 3. And then in the edit, we were like, no, this is really 4 episodes, because we were like, you know, once Ultimate Man reappears and you have all of this backstory stuff, it really felt like you needed to break away from it. So it was always a matter of like, we're going to spend 2 days at our office, 1 day at our home, 1 day at this warehouse. What are the story details that we can make happen with these characters and these locations? And it was just a lot of puzzle math to make it all come together. But it's interesting because I'm going back through old drafts of the script for another project that I'm working on, and it's very interesting that like there are all of these like small gags from tiny scenelets that we just could not justify shooting on the schedule that we had.
Yeah, so okay, so it's really, yeah, in many cases I guess you had to pick and choose certain things, but it all turned out, I mean, you got everything that you needed. It all just fit together so well. And I love that, yes, it's a show that does have a superhero in it, but Lo is so much the central character of the piece. Can you talk about maybe what's in store for her, or if there's going to be any more, or if this is like a kind of open and shut thing?
Well, you know, the goal with this web story, with this web series or digital series, was to make sure that we told a complete story. And I feel like we've told a complete story of like a week in this woman's life and a change in experience and a change in her point of view. And this character that's not a hero, you know, comes into her power and gets to be a hero, which was what we wanted to do. There is many more stories I want to tell with her that would move sort of farther and farther away from Ultimate Man, and would probably, you know, step farther and farther out of the traditional superhero narrative. Because this was sort of like, what if we were to do, you know, the last time they're all doing this? Like, this is the last time she's going to be tied up in a chair. This is the last time she's getting kidnapped. This is the last time they're having that fight, and now the world is broken and we're going to be doing things differently. And what does it mean for her now, having left this relationship, to like go do her new job? And a lot of that would be coming at what would be like superhero and sci-fi tropes from this like very human woman's point of view. And also just sort of, I think journalists are so important, especially now, especially like in the last 4 and 5 years in America, and really making sure that we were making her investigations and her process, and that real investigative journalist process, sort of the central superpower of the show. And that sort of would be, you know, she would always be like on the case and following a story until it was over.
Yeah, that all comes across so wonderfully. And yeah, you've really got a really great character in Lo. So thank you for bringing her to the screen.
Thank you for having her and for having us.
Yes, and so wonderful to meet you. And thank you for logging on to join us.
thank you.